My name is Esteban Castillo. This is my third year here at Hcom. I'll be asking myself a couple questions here. The first question: what do I value in things important in life? The most important thing in my life is to be happy because without happiness, there's really no reason to be in this world. Just to be happy with what you have and what you do and whatever you're gonna do with your life. Question number two. I rate my values depending on the point of my life that I'm in and who I'm with. I rate them by importance in that moment in my life. What do I think is the root of my morality? My morality comes from my family because my parents might not be the most moral people in the world, but they have tried their best. They literally have tried their best to teach me all the things they can. So, how do I decide what is right and what is wrong? So, the way I decide what is right and what is wrong is by analyzing the situation. My particular stance on the issue: should religion be taught in schools? It should not be. Religion should never be taught in schools. My particular experience, they have influenced this particular opinion, is that I used to go to church every day, and I learned the New Testament, the Old Testament. They're good reads. They're not like something that I will hold to my heart and be like, God is super powerful. But I'll say that yeah, that's awesome. I think that it has a good moral compass for people who need it. Through all my life, by reading other things, and by how I feel and how I was raised, I feel that that's the reason that I truly believe that if you there really should not be taught in school. That was it. Thank you for listening to me, and the next part will be me asking questions to Sam Glazer. She is a very cool person that I recently met and has made a big impact in my life. Can you please tell me your name?
Hi, my name is Sam Glazer.
Can you tell me your profession, please?
Yes, I'm the first year experience coordinator at CSUNB.
Okay. And can you give me a brief summary of how you met Esteban?
I met Esteban when I first started my position back in June. He was an orientation leader and I was coming in as his new supervisor.
I'll be asking you some questions right now, and I would like you I would like you to answer as truthfully as possible. And if you have any questions or concerns, we can stop at any time you want. What do you value and think is important in life?
I value my family and friends and the connections that I make with people, and I think the impact that I can make on those relationships is what is most important in life.
How do you rate values in general?
In general, um, I don't know. I think I have like a moral compass that tells me which values I put more weight on. Um, so I think I rate goodness and um, people being careful and caring for one another is very high. Whereas like things like some people might rate value as a financial value or something, and that's lower on my list.
Why is this important to you?
Why are my values important to me? Um, my values are important to me because I I don't know, what is someone without values to fall back on? I think when you get to know someone, you get to know their values, and if you have similar values, that means you can do more with your relationship, and you want to spend more time around those people or that person. And if your values like don't align very well, then that's usually where you find conflict in your groups. And so I think it's important to find and surround yourself with people who have similar values.
What do you think is the root of morality?
Probably my parents and my upbringing. Um, I think one of your next questions might be about religion. My family was not very religious. I grew up celebrating holidays, but there was kind of a running joke that we were a Hallmark family, so we celebrated them without much religious background. I never attended church or anything like that. And somehow my parents are like the most moral people that I know. And they instilled that into all of their kids, including me. Um, so I think I get my morality from them and just being raised in a really caring household with really wonderful parents.
How do you decide what is right or what is wrong?
I don't know. I decide what's right and wrong based on like this internal moral compass that I have. So probably like a combination of lived experiences and lessons that I've learned over the years. And as I navigate life, I often will think of when I'm making an important decision, like the outcomes of both options, and I'll think about like who that decision impacts, and then I'll base my decision on that. So I think, like, I always try to keep a moral compass in mind when I'm making decisions that impact other people.
What is your particular stance on schools teaching religion?
That's a really good question. I I think it's only appropriate when the school is a religious school, like if it's funded by religious entities, and that's stated, like people who attend that know that they're attending a school that focuses on religion as a value. Um, because in public schools, I don't think it has a place. I firmly believe in a separation of church and state, and I don't think that it should be taught as in like a preaching kind of way. That being said, I think like religious studies classes in colleges and universities are super valuable. Like learning about different religions, I think that can be really powerful for people, and I don't see any problem with that. But having students conform to a certain religion or explaining the contradicting side of science with religion, I see some problem with that.
How do you imagine the other side would describe your position?
Well, I think it kind of goes back to some of your earlier questioning about like where do morals come from and wanting to put good morals into all of our students, you know? Um, so they would probably say that religion should be in school in order to teach students good morals. But I disagree with that. I think you can learn good morals without the presence of religion.
What was an experience or a lesson that has influenced you to create this particular opinion?
I don't know if I can point to like a specific instance, but I do remember having discussions from a really young age with my peers at school. Like I had a lot of friends. I grew up in a town that had a lot of churches and a lot of friends who attended church every week, and I had friends who attended religious schools. And so it was something I talked about from a young age with people. And I guess in talking to them and in talking to my parents and really reflecting about what meant good morals and what meant bad morals, I I don't know if I have like a specific moment in time. I just remember having a lot of conversations with people.
Do you have any questions or concerns about any religious studies that you have learned?
It's like specific.
Mm-hmm.
So I have concerns with creationism being taught alongside evolution. I'm a believer in evolution, and personally, like I identify as agnostic, so I'm not atheist. Like I'm not anti-religion, but I'm really scientific in the way that I think, and I like things that can be proven. And so that's why I identify as agnostic, because you can't prove the absence of some kind of God or gods. But that being said, like I haven't seen the evidence for it either. So I'm kind of like leaving the opportunity for something to be out there, but I would need proof before I like committed to something like that. So I guess I take issue with people who are teaching creationism next to evolution, because we have evidence. We have scientific evidence for evolution. Lots of things pointing toward like animals and people evolving and the creation of Earth evolving, and that's where we are today. And I don't see evidence for creationism. and I think teaching them next to each other is really confusing for young people who don't understand fully both sides of things, and I don't think you can make a decision until you do understand both sides.
And final question: when as you get older, will you let your uh, son or daughter learn about religion in school, or would you personally teach them about religion?
I think that's a really great question. Like my gut instinct is to say that I would rather have them not learn about it in school, and I would rather expose them to many different religions and teach them about, um, what is religion and why do people partake in religious activities. But I also have experience, like I have friends who chose to attend religious schools because their public school option wasn't a great school to attend. And so I don't know that I wouldn't be in that same situation when I had my own kids. So I do see like a place where I might have to send my kids to a religious school for them to get a good education. But I hope that if I ever had to do that, I would be able to have ongoing conversations with them about like what they were learning and experiencing, and making sure that I was filling the gaps and supplementing what they were learning with what I thought they should know, which really I'm hoping to just instill an ability for them to decide for themselves. I don't necessarily want them to have the same beliefs that I do, but I want them to make informed decisions.
Okay, so I actually have a couple more questions for you, and I would like to go back to a question in particularly. I would like to ask you again about how, what do you think is the root of your morality?
Yeah, so I touched upon this a little bit before, and I really do think it relates back to my upbringing. Um, I chose to talk about my parents mainly because that's like what I remember most is really having. I remember having really thoughtful conversations with my dad, like just when we were driving around town, about like morals and how he knew the difference between wrong and right. And so I owe a lot of that to my family, but I think I also grew up in a really comfortable community. And I think I went to public schools, and I had a mom that stayed home with us until we were school aged. And so I think having like consistent interaction with adults that I still view as really moral people, like my parents, my grade school teachers, I really like at the time thought that they were all knowing people, and if they thought something was right or wrong, then they were the end all be all. Like they knew what was right and what was wrong, and I needed to pay attention to that. And so I think from a really young age, like I was getting consistent messaging from multiple people, so like my parents and my teachers and my friends' parents, and so at at a formidable age, my friends and I at the time, when we were like 5, 6, 7, we were making these kinds of decisions about what's right and wrong. I think we would talk about like, well, what would our mom and dad want us to do, and what would our teachers want us to do. So I think yes, it was definitely my teachers, but it was also my school and it was my community. And I'm not sure that every kid in America gets that same experience. Like I think I was really privileged to grow up in a home where one of my parents could be home with me before I was school aged and then after school. And I think having a lot of those interactions with my mom, because she was home with me, but also like my parents asking good questions, and all the way through to high school until even college and now, having them to fall back on, and then thinking about my upbringing is so different than a lot of people experience. Most people don't have the option to have a parent stay home with their kids when they're raising them. So there's definitely a privilege associated with morality, I think.
Okay. Following that, do you still talk to your parents about morality and like things that you do right now?
Sometimes. I don't know if I use those words or say like I have a moral dilemma I need to discuss with you, but I think Like I said earlier, like a lot of times your morals, if they align with the people you surround yourself with, you know you'll get along well with that person. Like that's someone you'll connect with and care about. And if they don't, then that's where you find the dissonance. But like sometimes, for instance, right now I'm planning a wedding, and deciding who to invite can be challenging. Like you want your whole family to be there, you want all of your friends to be there, but then you look at your budget and it's not always possible. And so finding ways to cut your guest list, it's like surprisingly it feels like you're not being moral because you want to share that with everyone, and then you come up with reasons why certain people shouldn't be invited. And so I've had that kind of conversation with my mom and dad. Like, here's our list of 200, we need to get it down to 150. And then, like, some random friend will come up and they'll be like, well, do you even still talk to them? And, like, you should just cut them off your list. And I always find that really gut-wrenching. Like, oh, but they were important to me at one point in my life, like, they should be there. So I definitely still use my parents to bounce ideas with and help me make decisions that I feel are really important and impact other people's lives. But I think too, as I get older, I use them less and less. I feel comfortable having conversations with students about like what's moral and what's not, and I don't have to like bounce that conversation off of anyone of my elders. I can just do that. So I think as you get older, you get more autonomy.
All right. Thank you for elaborating that question. And yeah, that'll be the end of this interview.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for participating.